Story 1: The Legend of Goatman's Bridge. In the quiet town of Denton, Texas, there lies an old iron truss bridge, known locally as Goatman's Bridge. Its real name is Old Alton Bridge, but no one calls it that anymore. The bridge has a reputation, a dark, eerie presence, that sends chills down the spines of those who dare to cross it. After dusk, the townsfolk whisper about a creature, half man, half goat, who haunts the area. His origins are murky, but his wrath is well known. Back in the late 1800s, a successful African-American goat farmer named Oscar Washburn lived near the bridge. He was well liked and respected by the local community for his hard work and fairness. However, his success attracted the ire of the Ku Klux Klan. One fateful night, the Klan dragged Oscar from his home, tied a noose around his neck, and threw him over the side of the bridge. When they looked down to confirm their deed, Oscar's body was gone. The Klan panicked and fled. But the legend was born that night. The legend of the Goatman. People say that if you knock 3 times on the iron bridge, at midnight you summon the Goatman. But few dare to test the legend. Those who do often return with harrowing tales, or sometimes don't return at all. One evening, a group of high school friends decided to put the legend to the test. Emily, Sarah, Tom and Jake were thrill seekers, always looking for their next adrenaline rush. They gathered at the bridge at the stroke of midnight, armed with flashlights and bravado. Emily was the first to knock on the bridge, her knuckles echoing in the still night. 1 knock, 2 knocks, 3 knocks at first. Nothing happened. The group laughed nervously, teasing each other for being scared. But then the air grew colder, and an eerie silence enveloped them. Sarah, the most sensitive to paranormal activities, shivered uncontrollably. "Do you feel that?" she whispered. The flashlight beams danced nervously. As the group huddled closer, suddenly Tom's flashlight flickered and died. The darkness closed in, suffocating them. They heard a faint rustling in the nearby woods, growing louder and more ominous with each passing second. Then came the sound of hooves, heavy, deliberate, and menacing. Panic set in. "We need to go," Jake urged, but his voice was drowned out by a guttural growl that seemed to reverberate from the bridge itself. The friends turned towards the sound and saw a pair of glowing red eyes staring back at them from the darkness. The Goatman had been summoned. The creature emerged into the dim light of the remaining flashlights. Its massive muscular frame was covered in coarse hair, and its twisted horns curled menacingly from its forehead. The sight was enough to send the friends into a blind panic. They ran screaming into the woods, the sound of hooves following closely behind. Emily tripped and fell, her cries for help lost in the chaos. Jake, unable to leave his friend behind, turned back. He found Emily cowering on the ground, staring up in horror at the Goatman standing over her. Jake grabbed a fallen branch and swung it at the creature, but it was like hitting a stone wall. The Goatman swatted him aside effortlessly. In a last-ditch effort, Jake remembered an old story his grandmother had told him about the Goatman. He fumbled for his pocket knife and with trembling hands carved a cross into the dirt. The Goatman paused, its eyes narrowing at the symbol. Taking advantage of the momentary distraction, Jake helped Emily to her feet, and they ran as fast as they could, back to the safety of their car. They didn't stop driving until they reached the outskirts of town. The experience had left them shaken and silent. They never spoke of that night again, but the legend of Goatman's Bridge only grew stronger, fueled by their unspoken terror. Story to the abandoned farmhouse. In the small, forgotten town of Waterford, Maine, there stands an old, dilapidated farmhouse on the outskirts of the forest. For years, it has been the subject of countless ghost stories and local legends. The most chilling of these tales involves the Goatman, a creature said to roam the woods and fields around the farmhouse, preying on anyone foolish enough to venture too close. The farmhouse had once belonged to the Thompson family. They were a simple, hard-working clan who tended to their goats and lived a quiet life. But in 1923, something terrible happened. One by one, the goats began to disappear. At first, the Thompsons thought it was a wild animal, but then their youngest son, Billy, went missing too. The townsfolk organized a search party, but Billy was never found. The Thompsons, stricken with grief, abandoned the farm, leaving it to decay. The story might have ended there, but strange sightings began to occur. Hunters and hikers reported seeing a grotesque figure lurking near the old Thompson farm, a figure with the body of a man and the head of a goat. Whispers of the Goatman spread, and the farmhouse became a place of fear and superstition. In the summer of 2024, a group of paranormal investigators from Boston decided to explore the legend of the Goatman. The team consisted of Laura, a historian, Mike, a tech expert, and Sam, a psychic medium. They arrived in Waterford with state-of-the-art equipment and a determination to uncover the truth. The farmhouse loomed before them, its windows like empty eyes watching their every move. The air was thick with the smell of decay, and something else, something primal and foul. Laura led the way, her flashlight cutting through the darkness. "Stay close," she warned. "This place has a bad reputation for a reason." As they entered the farmhouse, Sam's senses were immediately assaulted by a wave of negative energy. "There's something here," she whispered, her voice trembling, "something ancient and malevolent." Mike set up his cameras and sensors, capturing every creak and shadow. The group moved from room to room, documenting the eerie silence. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the second floor. "What was that?" Laura asked, her heart racing. They climbed the rickety stairs, each step groaning under their weight. At the top, they found a room that had once been a child's bedroom. Toys lay scattered across the floor, covered in dust. But what drew their attention was the large, claw-like scratch marks on the walls. "This must be Billy's room," Laura said softly, "whatever took him." It was no ordinary animal. As they examined the room, Sam felt a cold hand on her shoulder. She spun around, but no one was there. "We need to leave," she urged. "Now." But before they could react, a deep guttural growl filled the air. The room grew colder, and the sound of hooves echoed from the hallway. The Goatman was near. Mike aimed his camera towards the door, capturing a shadowy figure with glowing eyes. The creature stepped into the room, its horns nearly scraping the ceiling. It stared at them with a mix of rage and hunger. "Back away slowly," Laura instructed, her voice steady despite her fear. But the Goatman lunged, its claws outstretched. Mike swung his camera tripod at the creature, but it passed through as if striking air. The Goatman roared, its eyes locking onto Sam, desperate. Sam remembered a protective chant her grandmother had taught her. She began to recite, her voice growing stronger with each word. the Goatman held in pain, recoiling from the sound. Taking advantage of the moment, Laura and Mike grabbed Sam and fled down the stairs. They didn't stop running until they reached their van. Gasping for breath, they looked back at the farmhouse. The Goatman stood in the doorway, watching them with those malevolent eyes. It let out a final, ear-piercing roar before retreating into the darkness. The team left Waterford that night, vowing never to return. They had captured footage of the Goatman, but it was more than enough proof for them. The legend was real, and the farmhouse remained a place of terror. Story 3: The Forest of the Goatman. Nestled deep within the Appalachian Mountains lies a dense forest untouched by time and man. The locals call it Goatman's Forest, a place shrouded in mystery and fear. They speak of a creature that stalks the woods, half man, half goat, with eyes that glow like embers in the night. Many have entered the forest seeking adventure, but few have returned. In the fall of 2020, for a young couple, Jason and Emily, decided to go camping in the Appalachian wilderness. They had heard the stories, but dismissed them as mere folklore. The forest was beautiful, with towering trees in a canopy that blocked out the sun, creating a perpetual twilight. They set up their camp near a crystal-clear stream, the sound of the water soothing their nerves. As night fell, the forest grew silent. The usual sounds of crickets and owls were absent, replaced by an eerie stillness. Jason stoked the fire, trying to shake off a growing sense of unease. "It's just a story," he told Emily. "There's no such thing as the Goatman." But Emily wasn't so sure. She had grown up hearing tales of the creature from her grandmother, who had lived in these mountains all her life. "We should be careful," she warned. "There's truth in every legend." The night wore on, and the couple settled into their tent, but sleep did not come easily. Emily kept hearing strange noises outside, the rustling a snort, the sound of hooves. She nudged Jason, who brushed it off as a deer or some other animal. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the campsite. Jason grabbed his flashlight and stepped outside, his heart pounding. The light revealed a set of massive hoof prints, leading away from their tent. He followed them cautiously. Emily closed behind the hoof. Prints led them to a clearing, where they saw something that made their blood run cold. A massive figure stood in the shadows, its eyes glowing red. It had the body of a man but the head of a goat, with twisted horns and a mouth filled with sharp teeth. The Goatman let out a low growl, its eyes fixed on the couple. They backed away slowly, but the creature followed, its hooves thudding against the ground. Desperate, Jason threw a rock at the creature, hoping to scare it off. The Goatman snarled, unaffected by the attack. Emily grabbed Jason's hand and they ran, the Goatman hot on their heels. The forest seemed to close in around them, the trees twisting and turning, as if trying to trap them. They could hear the creature's breath, hot, unrancid, as it gained on them. Just as they thought all was lost, they stumbled upon an old abandoned cabin. They dashed inside and barricaded the door. Their hearts racing, the Goatman circled the cabin, scratching at the walls and snarling in frustration. Hours passed, and the creature finally retreated, leaving the couple alone in the eerie silence. They waited until dawn before venturing outside, their bodies trembling with exhaustion and fear. They made their way back to civilization, never daring to look back. The Goatman's legend lived on, and the forest remained a place of terror, its secrets hidden among the trees. waiting for the next unwary traveler to venture into its depths.